What if the biggest mistake you make while ice fishing has nothing to do with your lure, your line, or the spot you picked? What if the reason you're going home empty-handed is hanging right in your closet? It sounds crazy, but we're about to show you something that will make you question every piece of winter clothing you own. We've all been there, a lake full of fish on the finder, but not a single bite. Today, we're not just going to tell you why. We're going to show you. We're diving deep, literally, to expose the #1 silent killer of your winter perch bite. And I promise, after you see this, you'll never walk on the ice the same way again. So let me ask you, do you think a fish can hear you from 30 feet away? Most guys would say no. Stick around and prepare to be wrong. For years as fishermen, we've been obsessed with the details. We spend hundreds, even thousands, of dollars on sensitive rods, high-tech electronics, and the latest and greatest lures that promise to be irresistible. We study lake maps, follow barometric pressure, and guard our secret spots like treasure. It's a game of inches, a game of details. But in all this focus on what's happening under the ice, we've completely ignored the loudest variable in the equation: ourselves. The common wisdom says fish can't hear very well, or that the ice muffles the sound. We've been taught to worry about dropping things or drilling too many holes, but the constant subtle noises we make are dismissed. This is a belief passed down for generations. But what if that belief is fundamentally flawed? What if the very gear designed to keep us warm is broadcasting our presence to every fish in the area? Let's set the scene. It's a perfect winter morning. The sun is just starting to hit the ice, there's no wind, and the world is completely silent. It's the kind of day that feels fishy. You get to your spot, you drill your holes, and you settle in. The flasher lights up with marks suspended just off the bottom. It's a school of jumbo perch, the exact thing you came for. You drop your favorite jig down, anticipation building with every foot of line that peels off the spool. You start your cadence, a gentle lift and fall, expecting that telltale tap any second. But nothing happens. The marks are still there, taunting you on the screen. You feel that familiar frustration creeping in. This is the moment every ice angler knows. The moment you start questioning everything, from your bait to your very existence on this frozen lake. But the answer is closer than you think. So the first thing we all do is blame the gear. You think to yourself, maybe they don't want this color today. You reel up, the cold metal of the reel handle biting into your fingers. You fumble through your tackle box, opening and closing plastic lids that snap loudly in the cold air. You tie on a new lure, a different color, a different size. You drop it back down, still nothing. The fish are still there, suspended, almost mocking you. Okay, maybe it's the bait. You open your container of spikes or waxworms. Another series of small, sharp sounds. You rebait the hook and send it back to the bottom. The result is the same. An hour goes by. You've tried 5 different lures and every jigging cadence you know. The frustration is now boiling over. This is the critical point where most anglers either give up and move, or just resign themselves to a bad day. But the problem isn't below the ice, it's above it. Then comes the moment of realization. In the dead silence of the morning, you shift your weight on your bucket. You reach across your body to grab your coffee thermos. As you do, the sleeve of your expensive, waterproof, windproof winter jacket makes a sound. A sharp, synthetic, swish-rustle sound. It's a noise you've heard 1,000 times and never thought about. It's just the sound of winter clothes. But in this profound silence, it sounds like a firecracker. And as you glance down at your fish finder in that exact moment, you see the red marks on the screen scatter. They don't just swim away, they vanish. It's a fleeting observation, one you might dismiss. Could it really be that simple? Could a little noise from my jacket, a sound I barely even notice, be the reason an entire school of perch just spooked? The idea seems ridiculous at first, but the seed of doubt has been planted. To understand why that little rustle is such a big deal, we need to talk about some basic physics. Sound is just vibration. On land, those vibrations travel through the air, which is not very dense. They lose energy quickly. But water is over 800 times denser than air. This means sound travels through it with incredible efficiency. In fact, it travels more than 4 times faster in water than it does in air. Think about that. A sound that is barely audible to you on the surface is a major event underwater. Furthermore, the ice itself acts like a giant drumhead. Every vibration you create on the surface, whether it's your footsteps or the scrape of a bucket, is transmitted directly through the ice and into the water column below with shocking clarity. We think of the ice as a barrier, a shield of silence. The truth is, it's an amplifier for our every mistake. Now let's consider the receiving end of these sounds. The fish. Fish don't have ears on the outside of their heads like we do, but their hearing is extraordinarily acute. They have two systems for detecting vibrations. The first is an inner ear, much like ours, which picks up sound waves. The second, and perhaps more important for a predator like a perch, is the lateral line. This is a system of sense organs that runs down the side of their body, allowing them to detect even the slightest water movement and vibration nearby. It's how they feel the flutter of a dying minnow or the approach of a predator. They live in a world of vibrations. A sudden, sharp, unnatural sound isn't just a minor disturbance to them. It's a direct threat signal. It's the equivalent of someone sneaking up behind you and screaming. Their instinctual, hardwired response is to flee first and ask questions later. So why are we focusing on perch? While most fish are sensitive to sound, perch are particularly skittish. As a primary prey species for larger predators like walleye, pike, and even bigger perch, they are constantly on high alert. Their survival depends on detecting danger before it gets too close. They are tuned to recognize the natural sounds of their environment, the subtle clicks of invertebrates, the low-frequency thumps of other fish swimming. What they are not used to are the high-frequency, sharp, synthetic sounds that our modern gear makes. The zip of a zipper, the rip of Velcro, and the swish of a nylon jacket. These sounds are completely alien to their world. They don't register as food or neutral. They register as danger. This is especially true in the quiet, stable environment of a frozen lake, where any unusual sound stands out dramatically. This all sounded like a good theory, but we're fishermen. We need proof. So, we decided to run an experiment. We went out to a clear water lake known for holding large schools of perch. Our first piece of equipment was a hydrophone. That's a fancy word for an underwater microphone. We lowered it down the hole and positioned it about 2 feet off the bottom, right where the perch would be. We wanted to hear what they hear. The goal was simple, to record the underwater world and then introduce the sounds we make on the surface to understand just how much noise we're really making. We wanted to put our ears, figuratively speaking, 30 feet below the ice and listen to ourselves from a perch's perspective. The initial silence recorded by the hydrophone was incredible, punctuated only by the faint, distant hum of the auger from another fisherman a quarter-mile away. Before testing our clothing, we needed a baseline. What are the normal fishing sounds? We recorded the sound of a tungsten jig gently tapping the bottom. Through the headphones connected to the hydrophone, it was a distinct but soft tick, tick. It sounded natural. Next, we recorded the sound of our flash's transducer pulse. It was a rhythmic, low-frequency ping, ping, ping. Again, this is a constant rhythmic sound fish get accustomed to. We even had someone drill a hole 50 feet away. That was a roar, a massive intrusion of noise, but it was temporary. The fish would spook and then slowly return. These were the expected, known variables, the sounds we all know we're making, but the real test was yet to come. The test of the unnoticed, ever-present sounds we make just by being there, sitting on a bucket, waiting for a bite. Now for the main event, the variable we came to test. Standing directly over the hole with the hydrophone, our angler was wearing a very typical, popular style of ice fishing bibs and a jacket. It's made of a durable, stiff nylon material. It's waterproof, windproof, and very warm. It's also very, very noisy. The first test was simple. Just lift your arm as if you were going to set the hook. On the surface, it was that familiar swish sound. But in the headphones, listening from the hydrophone 30 feet below, it was a sharp, grating, crackle-scrape sound. It was unbelievably loud and unnatural. It was a high-frequency noise that cut through the silence of the deep. It sounded like someone crumpling up a piece of plastic wrap right next to the microphone. We did it again, this time just shifting our weight on the bucket. The fabric of the bibs rubbing together created a lower frequency, but equally jarring rubbing sound. It was official. We were the loudest thing in the lake. Let's break down what we heard. The sounds weren't just loud. They were of a specific character that is particularly alarming in a natural environment. High-frequency, sharp, crackling noises are often associated with things breaking or splitting. Think of a twig snapping underfoot in a quiet forest. It's a universal signal of movement and potential danger. That's what the rustle of a nylon jacket sounds like underwater. It's not a smooth, natural whoosh like a fish's tail. It's a jagged, synthetic sound wave. When you combine that with the excellent sound-conducting properties of water and ice, you're essentially sending out a high-alert signal in every direction. The sound isn't just going straight down. It's radiating outwards in a sphere. A fish sitting 20 or 30 feet away from your hole is receiving that signal loud and clear. They don't know it's just a jacket. All they know is that something unnatural and potentially dangerous is very, very close. Hearing the sound was one thing, but we needed to see the reaction. The next phase of the experiment involved an underwater camera. We found a large, visible school of perch on the fish finder and lowered the camera down, positioning it for a wide view. The fish were milling about calmly, acting naturally. They were relaxed. This was our control group. We let them settle for a good 15 minutes, watching them on the monitor. The stage was set. We now had both eyes and ears under the ice. This was the moment of truth where theory would meet reality. If our hypothesis was correct, we were about to witness, in high definition, the direct impact of our noisy clothing. If we were wrong, well, at least we got to spend a day on the ice. But what we saw next was more dramatic than we could have ever imagined. The test was identical. The angler stood over the hole, in full view of the perch on the camera. He slowly raised his arm. The nylon jacket sleeve rubbed against the body of the coat. The swish on the surface was barely audible. But on the monitor, the reaction from the perch was instantaneous and violent. The entire school, dozens of fish, flinched as one. They didn't just swim away, they bolted. In a fraction of a second, the screen was empty except for a cloud of silt they had kicked up from the bottom. They were gone. We measured the distance. The fish at the edge of the school, which were a good 30 feet away from the hole according to our flasher, reacted just as violently as the fish directly below us. This was the smoking gun. It wasn't a theory anymore. We had recorded undeniable visual proof that the simple act of moving your arm in a noisy jacket can clear out an entire school of perch from 30 feet away. Okay, so the noisy jacket was a disaster. But what about quieter materials? For our second test, the angler changed his outer layer. He switched to a heavy-duty wool jacket and a pair of soft shell pants. These materials are known for being much quieter. We found another school of fish, set up the camera and hydrophone again, and repeated the exact same test. The difference was night and day. First, listening on the hydrophone, when he raised his arm, the sound was a dull, low-frequency whoosh. It was a whisper compared to the scream of the nylon jacket. It was a much more muted and natural sound. Now for the visual test. He raised his arm, and the perch did nothing. A few of them maybe turned ahead, but they didn't scatter. They didn't flee. They continued to mill about, completely unconcerned. We had him walk around the hole, bend over, and grab gear. The muted sounds of the softer clothing were almost completely ignored by the fish. This was the moment it all clicked. The jacket is the most obvious culprit, but the noise doesn't stop there. We started thinking about all the other sounds we make. We took a closer look at our gear, and the list of silent killers grew quickly. The number one offender after the fabric itself? Zippers. The metallic zip of a pocket zipper is an incredibly sharp and loud sound underwater. We tested it, and it was just as bad as the noisy fabric. Then there's Velcro. That rah-rap sound, used for cuff adjustments or storm flaps, is a sonic bomb going off in the perch's living room. Even the plastic clips and buckles on your bib straps make a sharp click every time you move. And don't forget your boots. Stiff, hard plastic winter boots, scraping and crunching on the ice, sends vibrations straight down. We've been walking around like a one-man band, completely oblivious to the racket we're making and blaming the fish for being finicky. So, how do you identify these silent killers in your own gear? It's simple. The next time you're getting ready to go fishing, do it in a quiet room. Put on your full ice fishing outfit, your bibs, your jacket, your boots. Now just move around, lift your arms, bend over like you're checking a hole, walk a few steps, and just listen. Be critical. Is your jacket making a loud rustling sound? Do your bibs swish when your legs rub together? Are your zippers loud and metallic? Does your Velcro sound like you're tearing a phone book in half? Make a mental checklist of every single noise your outfit makes. These are the sounds that are betraying your presence on the ice. Recognizing the problem is the first and most important step. You might be shocked at how much noise you're actually making without even realizing it. Most of us have never even considered our clothing as a piece of stealth equipment. The problem extends beyond just the clothes on your back. It's about our overall behavior. Think about all the other sounds we make. You set down your metal coffee thermos on the ice. Underwater, that's a loud clang. You kick your plastic minnow bucket to slide it closer. That's a thump scrape that radiates everywhere. You drop a pair of pliers. It's a sonic shockwave. We are constantly creating a symphony of unnatural, threatening noises. We've been conditioned to think that as long as we aren't running around and jumping up and down, we are being quiet. But on the ice, quiet is a whole different ballgame. It requires a new level of awareness. It's about thinking through every single movement and its potential acoustic consequence. The best ice anglers are often the ones who seem to move in slow motion, deliberate and smooth in everything they do. So what's the solution? The most effective change you can make is with your clothing. When you're buying new ice fishing gear, make quietness a top priority, right up there with warmth and waterproofing. Look for outerwear made from softer, quieter materials. High-quality wool, while old-fashioned, is fantastic. Modern soft-shell fabrics are also an excellent choice. Many materials used in hunting apparel, like fleece or brushed polyester, are designed specifically for stealth and work perfectly for ice fishing. When you're in the store, test it out. Rub the sleeve against the jacket. If it makes a loud, crinkly or swishing sound, put it back on the rack. It might be the warmest jacket in the world, but if it scares every fish away before you can even get your line wet, it's completely useless. Your outer layer is your interface with the environment, and it needs to be a silent one. You don't necessarily need to go out and buy a whole new expensive outfit. You can modify your existing gear to make it much quieter. Let's start with those noisy zippers. Get some rubberized heat shrink tubing from a hardware store. Cut small pieces and shrink it over the metal zipper pulls. This completely dampens that metallic clinking sound. You can also replace them with simple cord pulls. For Velcro, the solution is tougher. If you can, have a tailor replace noisy Velcro closures with silent magnetic snaps or simple buttons. If that's not an option, at least make all your adjustments at the truck before you even walk onto the ice. Get your cuffs and flaps set so you don't have to rip them open while you're fishing. It's about minimizing the use of these loud features once you're in position and trying to be stealthy. Beyond gear, the biggest change is in your behavior. You need to cultivate the art of moving quietly. Slow everything down. When you walk, try to roll your feet rather than stomping. When you set something down, like your flasher or tackle box, place it gently instead of dropping it the last few inches. Organize your gear so that everything you need is within easy reach, minimizing the amount of twisting, turning, and reaching you have to do. Every movement should be deliberate and slow. Think of yourself as a predator, like a hunter stalking a deer. You wouldn't go crashing through the woods, and you shouldn't go crashing around on the ice. This mindset shift from just being on the ice to stalking on the ice is a total game changer. It costs nothing, but it will pay huge dividends in the number of fish you catch, especially on those tough, high-pressure days. So let's bring it all together. What have we learned? We've learned that the old wisdom is wrong. Fish can and do hear us with incredible clarity. We've proven with hydrophones and underwater cameras that the #1 source of fish spooking noise is often our own winter clothing. A standard nylon jacket creates a sharp, high-frequency sound that can send a school of perch fleeing from 30 feet away. We've seen that switching to quieter materials like wool or soft-shell fabrics makes a massive, observable difference in fish behavior. The final verdict is in: if you are wearing noisy clothing and making careless, loud movements, you are drastically reducing your chances of catching fish. You are, in effect, ringing a dinner bell that tells every fish in the area to run for cover. The quiet, deliberate, and well-equipped angler will outfish the noisy one 9 times out of 10. So there you have it. The biggest takeaway, the real aha moment, was seeing that underwater footage. Watching an entire school of perch vanish in the blink of an eye, not from a dropped lure, not from a loud stomp, but from the simple rustle of a jacket sleeve. It changes everything. It means for years, many of us have been our own worst enemy on the ice, blaming the conditions or the finicky fish, when we were the ones broadcasting our presence like a foghorn. This isn't just another small tip. This is a fundamental shift in how we should approach ice fishing. It's about adding a new layer of stealth to our strategy, one we've completely ignored. Thank you so much for watching and for being willing to challenge some old-school thinking with us. If this video opened your eyes, do us a favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more content that goes beyond the basics. Now, I want to hear from you. Be honest. What's the single noisiest piece of gear you own? And did you ever suspect it might be costing you fish? Drop your answer in the comments below. Let's talk about it.